Key point 1. Silencing women is a life or death issue. Rebecca Solnit once conversed with a man so self-absorbed she called him Mr. Very Important. He was trying to talk over her by lecturing her about a book, only to find out later that she had written it herself. In that room, except for Rebecca and Mr. Very Important, there was also an idea hanging in the air that women should keep quiet while men explain things to them. This notion contributes to the harassment and dismissal of women, making them invisible and self-doubting. And day by day, women bravely challenge both harmful ideologies and doubts about their self-worth. While self-doubt has merits, as it allows for personal growth, humility, and informed decision-making, too much is detrimental. It can distort our self-perception, causing us to see ourselves as inadequate, unworthy, and incapable. Although unsettling, Rebecca's encounter with Mr. Very Important sheds light on the widespread issue of silencing women. In some countries, the stakes rise to extreme levels, with a woman's testimony having little weight unless a man corroborates it. This practice leaves women who are victims of violence and harassment in vulnerable situations. Therefore, ensuring a voice for women is a matter of survival. Beliefs that undermine women are the starting point of gender-related violence. Steering toward a world that cherishes every human being is our collective responsibility. In this future, a woman can express herself freely, and others will listen and respect her voice. Your engagement is vital as we join forces to change the narrative and break down barriers. Stay tuned for more thought-provoking ideas that can drive us toward transformation. This summary will challenge you to step up and play your part in creating a more equitable world. Key point 2. What is the reality of violence against women? According to the United States Office on Drugs and Crimes, approximately 47,000 women were killed by their partners or other family members in 2020, meaning that every 11 minutes that year, one woman died as a result of violence. If you doubt harassment is a life or death issue, Marine Lance Corporal Maria Lauterbach's story may change your mind. She was 20 when she was murdered for trying to report rape. There's a horrifying pattern of violence against women, including but not limited to rape, online abuse, and murder. These heinous acts stem from the abuse of power and the patriarchy that tolerates such actions. Ensuring women's human rights and addressing the harsh reality is crucial. Violence knows no boundaries, yet women disproportionately bear the brunt. And while gender-related violence can also target men, women face a higher rate of critical injuries. Violence is one way to silence people, to deny their voice and their credibility, to assert your right to control over their right to exist. Rebecca Solnit. In our world, 23-year-old Yoni Singh was raped in a moving bus by 6 men, and a 4-year-old and a 73-year-old were assaulted in Louisiana. Numerous crimes against women happen daily, and in a reality like this, we must discuss why this happens and what we can do about it. Breaking the chains of patriarchy begins with open, honest discussions. As traditionally painted by society, masculinity ties closely with the concept of aggression. Many boys grow up learning that real men fight. This damaging narrative echoes throughout our culture, influencing movies, video games, and even the toys our children play with. Yet the good news is we're witnessing a shift. More people are starting to question and challenge these harmful stereotypes. New heroes are beginning to populate our screens, men who display empathy, emotional intelligence, and vulnerability. These men aren't afraid to cry, admit their fears, and embrace their full spectrum of emotions. While change is gradual, these are encouraging signs. We're moving away from the harmful masculine narrative toward a healthier, more authentic concept that allows boys to grow into balanced, emotionally healthy men. Did you know? According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, NCADV, every 9 seconds, a woman in the U.S. experiences assault or physical violence. Key point 3. Unraveling the systemic roots of gender inequality. Throughout history, societal norms have regrettably imposed the label owner on a man and possession on a woman. This distressing hierarchy set the stage for rigid gender roles and a deeply flawed patriarchal structure. And patriarchy, in turn, made way for gender-related violence. Violence starts with the deeply ingrained belief, I have power over you. This belief was at the heart of the Taliban's effort to kill 14-year-old Malala Yousafzai for promoting women's rights to education. It reveals itself in politicians' attempts to control women's bodies and reproductive rights. And this very mindset fuels workplace discrimination, sexist comments, and sexual assaults. We might sometimes feel too small to make a difference. But have you heard about the case of African immigrant Nafissatou Diallo? She bravely fought for her right to bodily integrity against the head of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Diallo shed light on gender-related violence and made Strauss-Kahn resign from his position as the head of the IMF. The charges were dropped in a criminal court, but Diallo won in civil court, receiving a financial settlement. However, this settlement inadvertently silenced her, illustrating that our work toward justice and equality is far from over. Your voice is a powerful weapon in our battle for equality. The problem of gender-related violence extends beyond particular offenders. Their crimes are not random occurrences, but symptoms of a larger systemic problem. They reveal the underlying issues in our society that we must work to resolve. Societal indifference often underpins the issue. Lack of awareness, denial, or even tacit acceptance in some cultures contributes to alarming rates of sexual misconduct. Economic factors further worsen the situation, trapping women in abusive environments due to financial challenges. Moreover, our legal systems often fall short, unable to protect victims. In many cases, laws stem from outdated beliefs, allowing perpetrators to go unpunished. Political climates may actively endorse sexism and misogyny in various ways. The underrepresentation of women in decision-making roles leads to dismissing their concerns and issues. For example, laws limiting women's reproductive rights or denying equal pay perpetrate gender inequality. Every girl deserves to grow up in a world where her dreams have no limits. Key point 4. Retrieving women from the shadows of history. Society has too often undermined the individuality of women, disregarding their ideas, desires, and needs. This situation pushed them into a corner, reducing women's identities to mere gender roles. Such chronic disregard made way for a daunting pile of domestic tasks. A tidal wave of household responsibilities disproportionately crashed into women, often forcing them into a life that echoes servitude. Another clear negation of a woman's individuality often occurred when tying the knot. Stepping into the marital bond required a woman to make a subtle sacrifice that was too easy to overlook: her name. This tradition has evolved into a personal decision in many modern societies, but historically, It wasn't a matter of choice. The title of Mrs. Your Husband's Name used to be just another stamp of a man's possession. Each woman's journey is a story of strength, resilience, and the ability to rise above challenges. Similarly, family trees have often acted as another eraser of women's historical traces. Picture a lineage stretching back 1,000 years, teeming with fathers and sons, but startlingly devoid of mothers and daughters. This alarming absence of women isn't just a data error, but a testament to a profound oversight. This hollow narrative is a jarring reminder of history's systematic exclusion of women. It's a mirror held up to society, reflecting a wrong we must right. The history of this narrative has such deep roots in our culture that we continue following it subconsciously. Did you know that a wedding veil originally symbolized a man's dominion over his woman? Her veil served as a wall marking the territory of a husband and promoting women as objects to possess and control. Women's rights and autonomy are essential for a more just and equitable world. In our journey to rectify gender inequality, avoiding the pitfalls of extreme optimism or debilitating despair is crucial. Blind optimism can trick us into thinking that all is too good, and despair can convince us that there is no hope. Indeed, we must squarely confront the reality of gender inequality, recognizing both the progress we've made and the flaws we haven't addressed yet. This delicate balance of awareness and hope can fuel our collective drive toward a more equal world. Key point 5. Stripping off stereotypes. Virginia Woolf, a luminary of 20th century modernist literature, shed light on gender inequality and highlighted issues of women's independence, education, and freedom of identity. A staunch advocate for women's autonomy, she celebrated women's often overlooked but significant contributions to art, literature, and society. Woolf's advocacy extended to her narrative technique, where she utilized the stream of consciousness to underscore the freedom of thought. This technique mirrored her push for freedom of identity. Woolf liberates the text, the imagination, the fictional character, and then demands that liberty for ourselves, most particularly for women. Rebecca Solnit. Woolf resisted the societal tendency to put frames and labels on women like clothes. Be a tireless employee, yet manage a perfect household. Be a loving spouse, yet foster your dreams and aspirations. Guide your children, yet maintain your individuality beyond motherhood. Under these sky-high expectations, it's unsurprising that many women are gasping for air. There is no such thing as masculine and feminine jobs. Woolf understood that our true selves couldn't fit into these tight boxes. Instead, she celebrated our right to continuously shape and reshape ourselves, shattering societal boundaries in the process. In her eyes, the greatest crime would be denying us this variety of choices and liberty. In 1915, when the world was in the chaos of World War I, Virginia Woolf claimed that the best thing about the future was its darkness. When we hear darkness, our minds immediately jump to images of fear, anxiety, and dread. Yet a different narrative comes to light if we look at it through Woolf's lens. The darkness turns into uncharted territory which, while daunting, inspires us to take an adventure. The future isn't set in stone, meaning we can sculpt whatever we want. Therefore, when societal roles feel more like shackles than guidelines, remember, there's more to life than these constraints. It's okay to resist the norms that don't resonate with your authentic self. After all, we're here to find and live our truth, not just to play the roles handed down to us. The more we live authentically and champion others who do the same, the more vibrant our future will be. Key point 6. From victim blaming to rape culture awareness. Feminism is a force for change in our society, shaking the very core of deeply entrenched biases. One such discrimination we are steadily dismantling is victim blaming. This particularly damaging concept perpetuates harmful behavior and societal misconceptions. A disturbing illustration of this bias occurred in 2011 when a Toronto police officer gave a lecture and advised girls not to dress provocatively to stay safe. This perspective promotes the vicious cycle of victim blaming. Instead, we should shift from dictating women's dress code to educating men not to rape. As a result, the term rape culture is now part of our vocabulary. It refers to an environment that normalizes, excuses, or encourages sexual violence. Consent education is essential in promoting healthy relationships and combating sexual abuse. Despite our strides in advancing feminism, the road ahead is full of challenges. Gender pay gaps persist. Gender-based violence continues, while stereotypes and biases remain deeply ingrained. Even the Wall Street Journal once published an article that unfairly blamed women for the absence of fathers in their children's lives. The magazine attributed it to female careerism. This term, invented solely to blame women for prioritizing career pursuits over traditional societal roles, underscores these pervasive issues. It's also distressing to observe how advertisements continue to objectify women. Portraying women as mere aesthetic objects promotes gender discrimination, body shaming, and unrealistic beauty expectations. We urgently need to encourage a different advertising narrative that respects women's autonomy and recognizes the wide-ranging diversity. Yet, despite all obstacles, feminism has made substantial strides forward. Less than 50 years ago, belonging to a minority group almost guaranteed enduring severe psychological stigma, discrimination, and criminalization. Thanks to the tireless efforts of feminist activists, we've dismantled the harmful myth that a woman is her husband's property, and society no longer supports the idea that spousal abuse is a private affair. We have begun to shatter the stigma of women being seen solely as objects of sexual desire. With feminism promoting egalitarian relationships and equality, feminists advocate for various issues, including marriage equality. This movement owes its success to the women who fearlessly shared their stories, tackled challenges, and brought transformative change to their local communities. These narratives, albeit often traumatic, allow women to assert their innocence, fortify their resilience, and inspire others through their powerful stories. Conclusion. Since stereotypes about women fuel gender-based oppression, misogyny, and gender inequality, they demand our attention. While it's critical to acknowledge and celebrate our progress, we must also realistically assess the challenges ahead and the steps we must take to confront them. For instance, power structures often use the silencing of women as a tactic to uphold their dominance. By preventing women from voicing their perspectives and experiences, those in positions of power can more easily maintain the status quo. This form of oppression stands as a barrier to true equality. Cultural norms often shape our understanding of the world and its dynamics. There's a vital need for education and awareness to challenge the harmful practices society tolerates, including the objectification of women. Feminism seeks to clarify these misconceptions, promoting not the oppression of men, but the freedom and rights of all humans. Despite opposition, feminism has opened doors that we should never close again. Progress has its own momentum. Try this. Here are 3 things you can do to help dismantle misogyny and advance gender equality. Learn more about organizations that fight against gender-based violence, including #MeToo, He for She, and Gender in Detail. If their work resonates with you, consider volunteering or becoming an ambassador. Nourish the culture of active consent in all your interactions. Initiate thematic meetings at your children's school. Discuss this topic with your friends and share information with those who will benefit from it. Check out Headway summaries about the promotion of gender equality. You can start with Equality: How to Design Organizations Where Everyone Thrives.